Welcome, everybody, to this beautiful Sunday afternoon. We're very fortunate today to have as our monthly presentation some people from the County of San Diego to talk about what they do for older people, which many of us are. And I feel very fortunate that our taxpayer money goes to provide all these services, which they'll tell you about. The Hemlock Society of San Diego is 38 years old, and our mission is to educate people about their options at the end of life. So today, that's what you're going to find out, not just assisted dying, which we are great promoters of. I'd like to introduce Christy Golub, who will introduce our program and our several speakers. So Christy, it's yours.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming. Navigating the challenges of aging, living with a disability, or planning for end-of-life care can be overwhelming, both for the individuals and their loved ones. Too often, people struggle alone, unsure of where to find the support they need to maintain their independence, dignity, and quality of life. That's why we're here today, to highlight the many programs and services available to help. At the heart of this effort is the County of San Diego Health and Human Services Agency, which provides vital health, housing, and social services to more than 3.3 million residents across San Diego County. HHSA serves as a lifeline for 1 in every 3 county residents each year, making a profound impact through a service network dedicated to building better health, living safely, and thriving. This vision is part of Live Well San Diego, a collective effort to improve community well-being. A key division of HHSA is Aging and Independence Services, which provides nearly 30 programs designed to help older adults and individuals with disabilities live safely, maintain independence, and access vital resources. These include caregiver support, in-home services, adult protective services, nutrition programs, and much more. Even if you're not in San Diego County, today's discussion will help you understand how to find a similar program in your own community. We are fortunate to have Matthew Parcasio with us today to lead this discussion. Matthew holds a master's degree in gerontology and has extensive experience working with older individuals and adults living with disabilities. As a caregiver programs and outreach coordinator at AIS, he plays a key role in connecting people with the support that they need. Matthew will introduce our panel of experts and guide us through today's discussion. After the presentations, we'll have a question and answer session. Please type your questions into chat. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Matthew. Thank you and welcome for being here.
Thank you so much, Christy, and greetings, everyone. Ms. Faye Gersh and the members of the Hemlock Society, we appreciate the opportunity to present today. We're here to talk about how the County of San Diego Aging and Independent Services can support you and those we care about as we navigate through aging, disability, or end-of-life transitions. If you've ever needed to seek support for yourself, friends, loved ones, the county's here to support you on your journey. So today I'm joined by a really esteemed group of colleagues from Aging and Independence Services, Dalija Dragisic, our Community Programs Manager, Elizabeth Jacobo, Adult Protective Services Supervisor, Elsie Campos, In-Home Supportive Services Supervisor, and we're so delighted to be also joined by Executive Vice President of Southern Caregiver Resource Center, Martha Rañón. Our goal is to educate you with the supports and assistance that will empower you to make choices, maintain dignity, and really stay independent within your communities. It's really important to remember that most local governments offer services for older adults and adults living with disabilities. So even if you don't live in San Diego County, which I noticed that someone was here from Arizona, wow, that's great. that this information will be relevant and similar programs are offered where you live. So I'll share in the next slide how to contact your area agency on aging in your respective county. Now we'll have plenty of time for question and answer session and an opportunity for you to share your experiences and insights after the presentation. So kindly hold your questions till then or put the questions in the chat as Christy mentioned. The panel will shed some light on your needs and explore the solutions available in our community. So we're really looking forward to an engaging and informative meeting today as we learn to navigate the path of autonomy and independence together. So I'd like to start with an abridged version of Aging and Independent Services programs that may be of interest to you. Aging and Independent Services, as Christy mentioned, or AIS, as some of us like to call it as an acronym, is a department of the County of San Diego Health and Human Services Agency. Aging and AIS, or Aging and Independent Services, is a designated area agency on aging in San Diego County. So we offer a mix of local, state, and federally funded programs that meet the needs of older adults and persons living with disabilities who live with various degrees of independence. So many of our programs have eligibility requirements based on age, income, or disability, but some of our programs are open to all. For example, for our independent older adults, we have volunteer opportunities. The Senior Volunteers in Action and the Retired Senior Volunteer Program engages older adults in the San Diego community by really connecting them with meaningful volunteer opportunities. Balboa Park Museums, the USS Midway, which is a retired Navy ship downtown, and the retired senior volunteers that work with our local sheriff are really just some of the volunteer opportunities that are available. AIS is really proud to support intergenerational efforts with opportunities for older adults to engage with young adults, teens, children, to really strengthen our communities. So right now, Aging Independent Services is currently supporting 9 intergenerational gardens throughout the county. We also have health promotion programs. We have Feeling Fit clubs, which are free exercise classes throughout the county. We also have Tai Chi classes, and we have a chronic disease self-management workshop. For example, healthier living with diabetes and healthier living with chronic pain are just some of the classes that are held throughout certain parts of the county and throughout the year. We also have a Dignity at Home program that will provide free fall prevention toolkits. So the toolkit contains a variety of home safety products, some assistive devices, and other tools that can really help prevent falls and fall-related injuries. Aging Independent Services also provides congregate meals and senior dining sites, as well as home-delivered meals for individuals in their home. So the congregate meal sites, provide nutritious meals, and they're available for older adults starting at age 60 and over for a suggested donation. No older adult is turned away for their ability to donate. So for example, if some of you locally, for example, live in the 92008 zip code, that's the city of Carlsbad. Carlsbad Senior Center serves meals Monday through Friday from 12 to 1. We also have home delivered meal programs. So Aging and Independent Services contracts with community partners to provide and deliver hot lunches to older adults. So for example, if you reside in the 92037 zip code, Jewish Family Service is the contracted service provider for home delivered meals. So the cost for each meal is a voluntary donation also, and that starts for adults 60 and over. Those who are homebound due to illness or disability can ask for meals to be delivered if they are registered with a county nutrition provider that offers this assistance. So for older adults in need of more support, we have case management programs. These case management programs offer assistance such as bill paying, shopping, care coordination. Our care managers really work to create a care plan set some goals so that older adults can live safely and independently in their home and really avoid institutionalization. Now, later in the presentation, I'm going to share some programs and services available to family caregivers. Martha Ragnon will be sharing caregiver supports through Southern Caregiver Resource Center a little bit later. Our Adult Protective Services program supports and they investigate allegations of neglect or abuse, including self-neglect. So you'll be hearing more from Elizabeth Jacobo very shortly. After Elizabeth, you'll be hearing more about our large program called In-Home Supportive Services, or sometimes referred to as IHSS, from Elsie Campos. Our long-term care ombudsman program investigates allegations of abuse and also advocates for residents' rights in long-term care settings. So those long-term care settings could be a skilled nursing facility, an adult day healthcare center, a residential care facility for the elderly, which is the acronym RCFE, or an adult residential facility. Our public administrator administers estates of deceased persons who have died without a will or without an appropriate person willing or able to act as an estate administrator. And finally, our public guardian serves as a legally appointed guardian or conservator for persons who are adjudicated by a superior court lacking the capacity to take care of themselves or their assets. So really the role of a guardian is to manage the conservative's finances, making sure their income is protected, their property is protected from loss or misappropriation, paying their bills, making investments, preparing and filing the taxes on behalf of the conservative. They can also provide case management services and ensure that the conservatee has proper food, clothing, and shelter, and they can also make medical decisions on behalf of the conservatee if it's granted, the medical powers are granted by a superior court. Now, as you can see, we have a lot of programs for older adults and people living with disabilities. Now, how to access these programs? As I mentioned in the previous slide, or as I didn't mention yet, we have our call center. The call center is the gateway for information and assistance for these programs, as well as other community services for older adults and adults living with disabilities. We also support caregivers and family members. So the call center can access eligibility for our programs and give referrals to other community services. So really, it's the place to start for information and assistance, take reports of elder and suspected adult abuse, community service referrals, access to quality community care services. We can be reached, as you can see on the number there, at 1-800-339-4661, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and 24/7 to take reports of instances of allegations of elder and dependent adult abuse. Now, for those of you who don't live in San Diego County, you're probably wondering, how do I contact my area agency on aging in my locale? All you need to do is contact 1-800-510-2020. Again, that's 1-800-510-2020. So if you call on your, for example, person that lives in Phoenix, Arizona, if you call that phone number, you should be able to contact your area agency on aging. There's also a website that is available through the ACL, and you just type in your zip code and area code, and it'll give you your local contact for your area agency on aging. That's the eldercare.acl.gov. And I'll make sure to put a lot of these phone numbers and websites a little bit later to make sure that you have these appropriate contacts. So now I'd like to turn it over to Elizabeth Jacobo, our Adult Protective Services Supervisor at Aging and Independent Services, to talk about Adult Protective Services. Elizabeth.
We're not hearing anything.
Elizabeth, are you muted? I can't see you.
Can you hear me now? Is that better?
You're-
Okay, cool. And I do have a PowerPoint. Matt, are you able to stop sharing so I can start mine? Okay, thank you very much. Let me just get my PowerPoint up and going here. Okay, thank you, everybody. As Matt mentioned, my name is Elizabeth. I go by Penny. So I'm Penny Jacobo. I am the current Training and Program Development Supervisor with the County of San Diego Adult Protective Services. And there is a lot of information on this particular PowerPoint. I am just going to fly through it because I know we only have a limited amount of time, but there will be time for questions at the end of the presentation. So if any questions come up, please hold on to them and we will get to them at the end. Okay, so let's jump right in. This is our call center number. Anyone at any point, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, can call and make a report about elder abuse or suspected elder or dependent adult neglect. So anytime open to whoever would like to make a referral. In the state of California, our population that we serve is any person residing in California who is 60 years old or above, and any dependent adult, so anybody residing in California between the ages of 18 to 59 that is living with a disability that restricts their ability to carry out normal activities of daily living. There are two different types of reporters. I'm not going to go into this too much, but basically mandated reporters are people who have assumed some kind of responsibility for the elder or dependent adult. However, anyone is free to make a report. I went over how to make an EPS report. You can always call or contact our AIS call center. Mandated reporters can also submit a written report via our online reporting system. However, that is only open to mandated reporters. Just a little bit of basic information about what to include in the report, the information that we really need to have before we can go out and investigate. Really just basic demographic information, name, address, phone number if possible, any information about injuries, risk factors, things like that. And again, I'm just flying through this, just keeping an eye on the time. Okay, pass by that. Okay, so adult protective services. What we actually do is we investigate reports of suspected elder and dependent adult abuse, neglect, and exploitation. For the most part, we do have a 10-day response time. So we have 10 calendar days from the date that the referral was received until we go out and make face-to-face contact with the individual. However, we are not an emergency response service. Even though our call center is able to take information and collect referrals 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we are not necessarily going to be going out and responding after hours. So we are not an emergency service. Usually, if it is an emergency type of situation, we would want that person to call 911. Another thing that is not always known about adult protective services is that we are a voluntary program. So we do not have any power to remove people from the home. We do not have any power to force anyone to any kind of service. And as long as we are speaking to that individual and they clearly tell us, no, thank you, I do not need any services, we are not allowed to push anything onto anyone. So participation is completely voluntary. When we go out and we talk to the person, we usually want to do unannounced home visits. The reason for that is because if there truly is something going on in the home, such as abuse or neglect, we want to see the situation as it is. So that's the reason why we do conduct unannounced home visits. We always want to talk to that individual privately. So if there's a caregiver around, other family members, we really want to ask them to leave to make sure that that person has the privacy that they need to tell us what's going on, or to refuse services if they're not interested in receiving any services from us. After that, we conduct a full risk assessment. We see what their safety is like. We're basically looking for any type of abuse or neglect, regardless of what the initial allegations that were reported are. And we find that a lot of the time, even though one type of abuse or neglect, so for example, if somebody makes a referral with allegations of financial abuse, we get there, we start talking to that individual. A lot of the times we find that there's also other types of abuse or neglect going on. So there might be physical abuse, there might be mental suffering, and I'm going to go over the different types in a second, but that the reason why we do a full assessment is to have a good picture of what's going on and to see if there's anything else that we might be missing. We do contact law enforcement for criminal activity. So after we conduct our investigation, if we find that there has been a penal code violation, we are cross-reporting that to law enforcement. Whether or not they decide to start their own investigation or do anything with that is out of our hands. We also document the case. However, our documents and our notes are not available to the public. We really value our clients' privacy and confidentiality, so we are not able to provide any information about our investigation without a court subpoena. We also provide just general information, education, resources, referrals. So if we go out to the home and the allegation that was reported, we find that there really isn't anything going on. There's no safety risks. However, this person might need a referral to transportation services or home delivered meals. We're still able to help out with that. We also may contact collaterals, suspected abusers might be interviewed, and this is just a part of our investigation to make sure that we have all the evidence possible and we're making an informed decision of whether or not we think the abuse or neglect occurred or not. Okay, within Adult Protective Services, we have specialized units. We do collaborate with other multidisciplinary teams such as nurses, doctors, other county programs, things like that. So just a lot of benefits to reporting to Adult Protective Services. These are the different types of abuse that we investigate, and I will go into a little bit about what each one might look like. So financial abuse. Basically, financial abuse can be any person who takes secrets, appropriates, or retains real or personal property of an elder or dependent adult. This can look like a lot of different things. This can be as easy as stealing money from somebody's wallet, or it can look like maybe very complex real estate transactions that may have been done without the consent of the individual. It can be embezzlement, it can be forgery, fraud. We have a lot of scam cases that we investigate. So it covers a wide range of issues. Some indicators of financial abuse might be unusual banking activity, excessive ATM use. Maybe they had certain banking habits or certain financial habits that are changed significantly in a short amount of time. They might have a new caregiver, a best friend, a partner, somebody who very quickly wants to take over that person's finances. So these are some of the things that we look for as far as financial abuse. The next one is mental suffering. So this is any kind of behavior by another person, including threats, harassment, things like that, that put the person in a state of fear, confusion, or agitation. We also have physical abuse. So this one is pretty self-explanatory. Any kind of physical force that may result in bodily injury, physical pain, or impairment. This also includes sexual abuse. So all of these fall under the area of physical abuse. Indicators are pretty straightforward, right? Any kind of injuries, frequent hospital visits, things like that. The next one is neglect. Refusal or failure to fulfill any part of a person's obligation. So if there is a caregiver in place, we want to make sure that they are fulfilling their duties to make sure that the older or dependent adult is well taken care of, that they have food, clothing, shelter, health care that is being provided. And neglect can be either intentional or unintentional. Some indicators of neglect are bed sores, poor hygiene or oral health. Maybe they're refusing medical care on that person's behalf. There might be some untreated or unexplained injuries. These are the kind of indicators that we look for when we are investigating neglect. Okay, then we have self-neglect. So self-neglect is very similar to neglect. However, with the case of self-neglect, there is no caregiver in place. So it's really the older adult or dependent adult that is failing to exercise a degree of self-care that a reasonable person in a like position would exercise. So this could be in the area of their own physical care, of their residence, or of their finances. So, because California is a self determination state, this means that people have the right to live in a way that they want to. So, for example, if we go into someone's home that looks like this picture here and they say, "This is just how I choose to live, I don't need any services, I am perfectly fine," there is nothing that we can do about that. So, that's what that means as far as the self determination state in California. In the situation that somebody is not clearly not able to make their own decisions, right? So either because of a medical issue that may have gotten them very confused, or if they have some kind of neurocognitive disorder that prevents them from understanding their situation and being able to make choices, or if there is a court order saying that this person does not have the legal capacity to make their own decisions, that's where we might look at other avenues. But this is really a minor percentage of the people that we work with. And we do have other avenues to make sure that that person is safe. However, the vast majority of our clients are able to make their own decisions. They do not have a conservator. They do not have anyone else that is legally responsible for making decisions on their behalf. Therefore, we have to listen to what their wishes are. Indicators of self-neglect, similar to the neglect indicators: poor hygiene. They might have been malnourished or dehydrated. Their home might be unclean. Substance abuse might be going on. There might be hoarding. So these are the kind of things that we look for when we are investigating self-neglect. Abandonment is one that we don't see very often, but it's basically the intentional leaving or forsaking an elder or dependent adult. Usually this happens when they have very high care needs. Another one is abduction. We do not see this one nearly that much because this actually has to be outside of the state of California. So it's the malicious taking or inciting away from California or restraint from returning to California. So again, this is not one that we see all that often. The next one is isolation. Isolation is the purposeful and intentional act of preventing communication between an elder or dependent adult and others. A lot of the time it's family members. So if a caregiver is preventing somebody from using the phone, receiving visitors in person, or receiving their mail, that would fall under isolation. Generally, some behavioral characteristics that we look for when we are conducting our investigations is we might see that that person is very easily frightened, or they might be very preoccupied with the abuser. They might have implausible stories. They might hesitate to talk openly to us. There might be some language barriers that we may have to navigate. There might also be a lack of responsiveness, which makes it very difficult on our end. Or there might be some confusion or contradictory statements. Really quick, some county statistics regarding our suspected abusers. The vast majority of our suspected abusers, whether the abuse was confirmed or not, the vast majority are family members. So here we see 54.6% of suspected abusers are just family members. And then on top of that, another 10% was the spouse or intimate partner, with a health practitioner being the lowest at 0.2%. So that in a nutshell is Adult Protective Services. This is what we do. I will go ahead and hold off on questions for now, and I will pass it over to our next speaker. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, Elizabeth. And yes, now we'll hear from Elsie Campos, in-home supportive services supervisor, and I'll let her share her screen.
I won't be sharing a screen. You can put yours up if you'd like, Matt. I think you had some information that was really useful and I'd love to share. First of all, thank you everybody for allowing me this opportunity to present. I am a social work supervisor with in-home supportive services, and my name is Elsie Campos. As you can tell, it's a pretty large department within aging and independent services. We have over 40,000 recipients. Our goal is for the recipients to remain safely at the home and avoid moving to a facility or out of the home. And we would like to enable these older adults and disabled persons to remain safe in their home where they feel comfortable, where they feel safe. We're very passionate about helping our older community. And I'm going to share a little bit more about what the process is, the application, what in-home care means for in-home supportive services. In this case, providing eligibility is very important to us and helping the older adults. There are certain requirements that they do need to meet. One of them is the individuals must be California residents, be physically residing in California, and live in their own home. Our program is also state funded. So what this means is that the potentially eligible candidates must have Medi-Cal, active Medi-Cal with the state of California. There is also a form called the health certification form. That form is provided to the recipient, and that form needs to be completed by a medical professional. Now, what does the application process look like? We try to make it as easy as possible, so we have different avenues and ways that they can apply. The easiest way of applying is by calling the AIS call center, Aging and Independence Call Center. Matt provided the number, but I will provide it again. That number is 800-339-4661. And this is to request an evaluation for in-home supportive services, or what we call IHSS. Other ways of applying are through the cdss.ca.gov website. They can also pick up an application at any of our 6 regional offices throughout the county of San Diego. If they have a printed application, that application can also be mailed to one of our offices. It can also be emailed, or it can also be faxed. And our fax number is 619-344-8077. Now, the question is, who can apply for IHSS? It can be the recipient. It can also be any other person. Sometimes it's a family member. Sometimes it's a medical professional. So pretty much anybody can submit an application for someone. If you call the AIS call center, information that they will request is, basic information like the recipient's name, date of birth, what is their medical diagnosis, if the person knows the medical diagnosis. Also, what are some of their limitations, physical and mental limitations. All the other information is gathered at the home visit. So once the application is submitted, the application gets assigned to one of our regional offices. And this is based on the applicant's zip code to make it, a little bit more easy to access if they have to come into the office for anything or submit paperwork. That way, it's close to their home. At that time, a social worker from in-home supportive services will be assigned to the case. From then, the social worker will contact the applicant, and this will be done. We do this by phone call, and we will also mail a letter with the information. And a home visit will be scheduled. So at the home visit is where we will assess the applicant. We will have more of a in conversation discussing what their limitations are, what their medical diagnosis is, are there any mental abilities or limitations. And that is going to be more like a conversation. We try to make it as easy as possible. We explain the whole process. It's a lengthy process, and I know it can be something a little bit, difficult to understand. So we're trying to be by their side throughout the process. And at that time, we'll also discuss what areas in the home we will provide care. So some of the areas, I'll mention some of them. It's domestic services. So that would be, for example, like, do they need help cleaning in the home? Do they need help taking out the trash? Another area is like meal preparation. What are they able to do in meal preparation? Do they need someone to, make their food? Do they need assistance with shopping, buying, prescriptions, calling in medication, picking up the medication? Also, laundry. Do they need help doing their laundry? In addition, some of the personal care tasks that we also discuss at the intake home assessment is, for example, bathing. Do they need help bathing? Or what is it that they need help in, or what are they able to do? Feeding, also ambulation, so moving around the home. Also, do they need assistance going to medical appointments? Do they need assistance with oral hygiene, brushing their teeth? Do they need assistance in transferring? So, for example, like standing up, sitting down, getting out of bed. And we do have some other categories that we look at. One of them is paramedical services. That one particularly has a form that a medical physician has to complete. But this could be, for example, if the provider will need to assist in like catheter care, if they're G-tube fed, medication administration. We also have another service category called protective supervision. Protective supervision is for someone who has a mental impairment, who is not self-directed and is placing themselves in danger at home. So we always assess for this service category as well when we're there. So once we'll discuss also how they would hire a provider, what the process is from here. Once the home visit is completed, the social worker has 45 days from date of application to process the application. Once that's processed, the recipient will know by letter, will be notified by letter. We call it a notice of action, letting them know if the case was approved, how many hours a month they will be eligible to, or if the case was denied, it will also give a reason for denial. So then at this time is when the recipient or the applicant will hire a provider. So IHSS handles the part of providing how many hours a month of in-home care is needed. Now it's the responsibility of the recipient to hire a provider. The providers are hired to public authority agency who can be a provider. Most of our recipients, it's a family member, but it can be anybody. It can be a neighbor, it can be a friend. If a provider is not identified, there's also a public authority no cost list of providers in their area. So what we do as a social workers is we'll provide them with the phone number to public authority. We'll explain what the process is. Providers do need to go through a criminal background check with public authority because we want to make sure that our older community is safe. They will need to do an orientation where they explain what the process is, and they will also need to do fingerprints. So that is the way the provider works, who can be hired. Once that is done, then we do visits annually to our recipients in which we go over again all the service categories I discussed before, and then we'll just find out what has changed. Do they need help in certain areas? We do encourage them to keep in contact with our social workers because sometimes changes happen throughout the year where they need more, more assistance in certain service categories. More maybe a fall happened or they were in the hospital during this time, so now they're needing more help. So we're more than happy to come out to the home again and do an evaluation mid-year to discuss where we can allow more time. So that's a pretty much overview of how the program works. They always have the social workers information because we know there's going to be questions or maybe they won't remember how to hire a provider, and we're more than willing to help walk them through the process as what they need to do to make sure they're home safe. And we're very passionate about helping our elderly community. We know they're going through tough times, so we want to make the process as easy as possible. And that's why we're here to answer all the questions. And I'll be able to answer questions, I think, once we're done. Matt, did you want to take over?
Thank you so much, Elsie. All right. So just following the topic of caregivers, Aging and Independent Services also provides family caregiver support programs. And currently, you may or may not be aware of this, but there are nearly over 53 million Americans providing unpaid care. So family caregivers are family members, friends, neighbors, and volunteers that are basically unpaid and providing assistance to someone who experiences limitations in their activities of daily living. That's bathing, dressing, grooming, meal preparation. Because of this complex role of family caregivers, they have a range of needs and supports. So there are services that family caregivers certainly could benefit from anything from respite care, counseling, home modifications, and support groups. So the Family Caregiver Support Program contracts with several local organizations in order to provide support to family caregivers. The YMCA actually provides respite to and caregiving outreach, information and assistance, legal guidance to grandparents raising grandchildren or family caregivers, otherwise known as kinship caregivers, who are caring, let's say, for a child relative. Jewish Family Service and Interfaith Community Services provide minor home repair modifications. So these modifications or home repairs could be anything from fixing faucets, installing grab bars, porch lights, electrical outlets, installing screen doors, and can offer assistive devices like raised toilet seats. Elder Law and Advocacy can provide family caregivers with a legal consultation. And then we also have our Caregiver Coalition of San Diego, which is actually a collaborative group of professionals and actually caregivers to support our community's caregiving needs. The Caregiver Coalition of San Diego hosts webinars and local caregiver-related events throughout San Diego County. One of the support tools I'll share with you a little bit later is a caregiver handbook that helps caregivers through their journey. And speaking of caregiving, the Southern Caregiver Resource Center has been contracted with Aging and Independent Services since 2002 and provides services and supports to family caregivers. So now it's my pleasure to introduce Martha Reñon, Executive Vice President of Southern Caregiver Resource Center. Martha.
Thank you, Matt. And thank you everyone for giving us the opportunity to talk about our services, but also to connect you, because I know many times, you know, in the relationship of the people that we care for, we don't even know where to begin. It is so daunting. It is so challenging. And that's why we are here. Before I begin, or should I say continue, I want to ask, there is a button on the bottom that says react, and I want to see how many of you have heard of SCRC, or Southern Caregiver Resource Center, by clicking at one of the effects or reactions that are in those buttons. Whatever icons you want to click on, if it's a heart or a happy face or a rocket, I just want to see how many of you have heard of our organization. I don't know if that's a feature that can be utilized right now. Oh, I see hearts. That's wonderful. Let me see. Anybody else? Or maybe you want to raise your hand so you can let others know if you've heard. Thank you, Matt. So it seems like maybe a lot of you have not heard of Southern Caregiver Resource Center, and that's okay, because that's why we're here. I have been connected with the organization for a long, long time. I actually used to be a family caregiver. I was caring for my great aunt who had dementia, and I became a client of this organization that I now work for. And it's so dear and near to my heart because I see the value in really supporting those who care for others, and that is our mission. So I am now here, and I have worked so closely with Matthew and the County of San Diego because we believe that there are so many people out there who might not even know where to begin. You know, I used to hear people saying, you are the best kept secret, and we don't want to be the best kept secret. We want you to all know exactly where to turn to if you need our services. So I'm going to get started. And I'll put my contact info on the chat as well in case you want to jot down the number. So we're a nonprofit organization. We have been around for almost 40 years. Grateful to the support that the County of San Diego has given us throughout all these years. Our territories or our service areas are San Diego and Imperial counties. All of our services are free, keyword free. And they are provided in English and Spanish, online and in person. So again, anywhere where you are in these two counties, we are here to serve you. Added bonus, we are the only state in the country who is a part of a network of caregiver resource centers throughout California. So we are one of 11 throughout the state that provides similar services. And so anywhere in California, if you have a family member, a friend who maybe lives in Orange County or lives in Northern California, we are here to help you. As a collective body, we support each other with our services. So the idea is that anywhere where you are in California, you can access these vital services. So what does it mean to be a caregiver? I think sometimes we don't even realize that we're caregivers and we're just taking care of our spouses or taking care of our elderly parents, but really that means you are a caregiver. If you are a family friend, a family member, maybe you're a neighbor, and you are actually responsible for the well-being of a dependent adult, 18 plus, with some sort of a cognitive impairment, like a traumatic brain injury, for example, or you're caring for an older adult, a frail elderly adult over 60 with some sort of a cognitive condition such as Alzheimer's, dementia, memory loss, and they need assistance with at least 2 activities of daily living, and you reside within those 2 service areas, San Diego counties and Imperial counties, then we are here for you. I am going to put now our contact info here in the chat so you all have it, but it's also here on the screen as well. So how do you get started? Well, great question. I want you to jot down this number because if you think you might need our services, all you have to do is give us a call. We are open Monday through Friday during regular business hours, and we usually return calls within 2 business days. We want you to contact us because at that point we do an assessment. We try to figure out what is it that you need. Sometimes we'll say, well, it's not about me. It's about, my mom that I am caring for. Yes, but we want to make sure that in supporting you, then you are better able to support the person that you're caring for, right? What is that saying that if you need to put the oxygen mask, put it on yourself first so that you can are better able to take care of the person next to you? That's the exact same idea. So once you give us a call and we do the assessment, we try to figure out what is it that your needs are. But many times caregivers don't even know what is available to them, right? You don't know what you don't know. I used to have a colleague who used to say that. If I don't know what I'm looking for, how am I going to ask? Well, our family consultants, who are master's level clinicians, are here because they are trained in identifying the implicit and explicit needs of family caregivers. That means that they might have an inkling of what you are needing if you are not asking for it. And also, they are very versed in difficult conversations such as end of life. So they are there to support the caregiver throughout their whole caregiving journey, even including end of life. The other service that we provide is a counseling service. This is great because we provide up to 6 sessions of free counseling by our state licensed staff members. They are the counselors that meet directly, and they can be in person or online with the family caregiver. When it comes to end of life, we provide that emotional support and also connect them with any appropriate services that are available and out in the community. We do encourage family caregivers to connect as soon as possible to services such as hospice so that they can talk about funeral arrangements, emotional support. Sometimes they have those chaplains available or nurses that come to your home. So we want caregivers to feel supported as soon as it's necessary for them to access these services. We know, having worked for so many years with family caregivers, that topics such as end of life are a delicate balance for people to really consider, especially when there are cultural aspects, religious aspects, family members who want to be involved in these decisions. So our counselors are able to navigate these difficult situations. We also provide a wonderful service to our clients. Sometimes people are not really sure what it's going to look like in terms of their financial standing. Do I need to sell all my assets to have my mom have the services that she needs, or to access long-term care? we partner with elder law attorneys, and we provide free counseling so that our clients can go talk to them directly and get these questions answered. They might also want to take the time to talk about powers of attorney, healthcare directives, all of these legal documents that could be very important and beneficial for the caregiver to have as they are caring for those individuals. I know that when I was a caregiver, it was very challenging to talk to any doctors and make any financial decisions on behalf of my aunt if I didn't have those legal documents. So I carry those papers everywhere, and it was so helpful to have actually utilized the service at SCRC. The education and training department that we have is who I am closely, and actually I do a lot of the work, and Matthew and I actually present it out in the communities together because we really want to connect with the community. We go into the communities that are underserved, but also the communities that might not know that our services are here for them. And we have wonderful, wonderful classes. If you go to our website, either caregivercenter.org or scrc.care, they both take you to the same website. There you can access our live stream classes. We have a YouTube channel, a Facebook channel. We also have fact sheets on advanced healthcare directives, do not resuscitate forms, feeding tubes and ventilators, ending caregiving and ambiguous loss, end of life decision making, all of these important fact sheets to get the conversation started for family caregivers. We also do monthly podcasts and on all topics related to family caregiving. And we have actually several that are related to end of life. One talks about how to talk about death and dying. There's another one that we talk about the end of life discussion with family members. We also have estate planning, caregiver's guide to end of life, sorting through the healthcare documents. There are so many documents that I want to make sure that you know are there available to you free online, as well as in Spanish. We have had these conversations also with people in the field that work with caregivers, whether it's in nursing homes or hospice. And so those are available to the community in Spanish. Now, I see that there are some questions. Did you want me to answer them now or later, Matt?
Perhaps we can hold till the end.
Okay, okay, I'll do that. Sure. I'll just add that we also have this wonderful program. As you know, Alzheimer's is a really devastating disease. It's one of the most prevalent in our communities. And in San Diego County, there is this effort to try to find the cure and try to find ways to mitigate this terrible condition. But there is no cure as of now. And so what we do have to do is manage and mitigate those challenges. And so we have developed a program that is evidence-based and evidence-informed. It's called TLC, Thrive, Learn, and Connect in English. Calma is the Spanish version of that. And the idea is to really work with family caregivers to understand Alzheimer's, to understand those difficult behaviors and how to manage them, but also to incorporate some self-care. I think a lot of times caregivers are dealing with a lot, and especially as we know that with this disease, it progresses and gets more and more difficult to manage. So then as caregivers, we want to make sure that you are supported, that you know who to turn to, and be able to talk to someone. Sometimes a family is not necessarily willing to talk about how frustrated you are or how angry you're feeling or how that ambiguous loss is impacting you. And our caregivers understand, our professional staff understand how to work with family caregivers. So we encourage people to give us a call. Do I have more time, Matt, or is that... I don't want to take somebody else's time.
You have a few minutes. Thanks.
Okay, good. Okay, good. I could keep going on and on about this. What is so wonderful about these services is that we, especially with the support groups that we have, we are, they're professionally facilitated. That means that we don't rely necessarily on volunteers. Not that that's a bad thing. It's just that with all the charged conversations that caregivers bring to these groups, we want to make sure that we are ready to support emotionally and that we are able to create a safe space for people to talk about their frustrations and for clients to really feel supported, validated, and seen. And so these support groups are offered throughout San Diego and Imperial counties, digitally, online, and in person. And again, free. What is wonderful is that it creates this sense, this network of support with each other. Caregivers learn, hey, what doctor did you see? What do you suggest about this service? Where can I go for that? What other questions can I ask my doctor? And so these are really good conversations. I remember one time I attended a support group up in Vista, and I was talking about our services, and a caregiver was telling me it was in a supported living facility, and she was devastated because her husband, who had Alzheimer's, was in that facility, and she would come and visit, and he had a girlfriend. And so she was devastated because she's like, I am the one that's paying and visiting, and I'm his wife, and he has a girlfriend, and I can't deal with this. And so there was that conversation, that difficult conversation that was taking place. And it was wonderful to see later that this individual had the support that she needed through the support groups that she was attending. We also have classes, trainings that we offered for professionals, and that's under the that employer resources icon that you see. Because as you know, a lot of us who are working, who are in different organizations, working for different employers, a lot of us are caregivers. A lot of us are balancing the job, the caregiving responsibility, and even family, right? So you have these big entities pulling at you. And so we want to make sure that we can go to these employers and talk to them about how we can support them as employees, as employers, that they can offer these services to their workforce. Right now, a lot of us might not realize, but we're aging. And as we get older, we are going to probably need these services. We are probably going to depend on some of the services that we've been talking about today. So we need to know who to turn to, what our family should be aware of. And we're very fortunate to live in this county. San Diego County has a wealth of resources, and as well as California. I know that there's somebody here from Arizona, but hey, you're welcome to come and access our online services. We actually, through our classes that we offer online, people from different states, from different countries, are able to watch and learn what is helpful as a caregiver, how to implement some of these methods that are helpful. So we encourage you to make sure that you watch those and share with your family members. Now, the last thing I'm going to add is the respite. Now, respite, for those of you who might not know what this term means, because I know it's kind of an odd word, but it's really to give you a break from caregiving. And there are about 450 plus in-home care agencies throughout San Diego County. So as a caregiver, really, who is going to have the time to sit and look through and vet every single agency to see if it's the right one for you and the family member that you're caring for? It's too much. It's overwhelming. Well, we take the guesswork out of the process, and we provide you with a list of respite providers who have been vetted, background checked, all of their paperwork is in order, else we can't work with them. And so we are able to offer this to our clients, and they can choose who to work with. And these are businesses that have these home care professional, what we call professional caregivers, who go into the home, help the family with bathing, cooking, transportation, meal preparation, etc. And that is wonderful. As our client, a lot of our caregivers sometimes realize that they have been putting off their healthcare needs to be the caregiver. And we don't want you to do that. We don't want you to neglect your care, because then there are going to be two people who are going to need caring, right? The person that you're caring for and yourself. And so what we want to make sure is that our clients, our caregivers, take the time that they need to do the things that they have to do, like going to the dentist, going to the doctors, going grocery shopping, taking care of their car. All of these needs are real, and caregivers need to have support to be able to do that. And so we can do that for you. We are very fortunate that we, from the county, from the state, have funds to provide that respite so that caregivers can work with those home care agencies and have somebody either come to their home, take care of their loved one, in whatever it is in capacity that they need. All right, so I think that's it, Matthew. And I'll answer questions at the end.
Thank you so much, Martha. All right. So before we end the presentation portion with our time here, we wanted to share a few resources that might be helpful. One is called the Vial of Life. The Vial of Life may look different in different parts of California and potentially in your state that you live in, but the Vial of Life is a sleeve with a sheet inside, and it's magnetized, as you can see there. Show a picture of the backside of the sleeve, but you would enter either your information or someone that you care about, their list of medications, health history, emergency contacts, hospital preference. So if in the event there's an emergency and a first responder would need to have some vital information about you or someone that you know, that information would be on the refrigerator and available to that first responder if they needed to take that person to the emergency room. It's available in English and Spanish, and we distribute the Vials of Life in our community for free. The Caregiver Handbook was created by the Caregiver Coalition of San Diego in partnership with a number of our community partners, Southern Caregiver Resource Center, one of them, for example, that created this handbook that's translated in the 9 threshold languages here in our county of San Diego that really help to support caregivers, family caregivers in their journey. The personal disaster plan was actually developed in partnership with Aging and Independent Services and the County of San Diego Office of Emergency Services to really help older adults and adults living with disabilities and access and functional needs to basically prepare for emergencies or disasters. And then lastly is the Elder Care Directory, which actually is published by the San Diego Union Tribune. It's a list of housing options, home care assistance, equipment providers, other health services and supports, including transportation. We help the San Diego Union Tribune to distribute the Elder Care Directory in our community as well. Another resource that I would encourage you all to check out is the County of San Diego's Ride Well to Age Well guide. So it's on our Aging Independent Services website that will provide a list of different resources for transportation. So one of the transportation key resources that you'll find in the Ride Well to Age Well guide is a program called FACT, and it stands for Facilitated Access to Coordinated Transportation. It's not a county program, but actually one of the very utilized transportation options for San Diegans here locally. And they offer low-cost rides here in San Diego for adults 60 and over, persons with disabilities that need assistance with essential trips, let's say to medical needs or grocery needs. And I will make sure to provide a link to the copy of the Ride Well to Age Well guide in the link as we get into our discussion portion. We want to also encourage you to sign up for our newsletter, which can be either mailed or emailed. Or you can also receive email updates through our county gov delivery email distribution. You can actually sign on to receive things all related to older adults and adults with disabilities living here in San Diego. I'll be sure to put the inside the chat as well too. Then again, we just want to reiterate the importance of, if you don't know where to turn and you just need a little bit of support and assistance along the way to maintain independence and make those positive and informed choices, to contact us at Aging and Independent Services at the 1-800-339-4661. So with that, I'm going to end the slideshow here, and looks like we'll get into the question portion.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Our first question is information available about life/treatment in reputation of the Chula Vista Veterans Home and California Veterans Homes? I'm not sure if you can answer that or not. It's way back up at the top, Matthew.
Maybe I
Okay, I
can
see it.
I can venture. I'm Dalija here with Aging Independent Services. I'm not sure that we can really talk about Veterans Home. I know we have made referrals in the past. I believe they have a wait list, if that's what we're talking about, but I'm not sure that we can really talk about that organization as an organization, whether they're good or not, or you guys would have to invite them to maybe speak next time.
Maybe. So
Yeah.
then we had another question regarding Dignity at Home Toolkit. I think somebody mentioned that.
Yes.
How does one get a hold of that?
Yes. So all someone would need to do is contact us at the 1-800-339-4661 and say, I'm interested or learned about the Dignity at Home Toolkit, and can see if we can potentially get one mailed to that person. So that's all it takes.
Then a question was, caregivers charge up to $50 an hour. Are your services free? And I'm assuming this is for the Southern Caregiver Resource Center, Martha.
Yes, the way it works is we have to contract with in-home care organizations or businesses, right? We don't send staff to do the care as an organization. So we contract with these home care agencies. And by them working with us, they give a break, a financial discount to our clients. So if it's 50, it might be, half of that, depending on what the needs are. And we pay for that through the grants that we get from the state and from the county.
If I can just add to what Martha was saying, just to make sure that this is really clear. Usually, in a lot of cases, and I know Martha talked about that, and she said a lot, so maybe this is somehow I missed. There's a family member, let's say it's the wife who's taking care of the husband. And that's who's considered to be a primary caregiver. Wife maybe thinks like, hey, this is just my duty. This is my partner of many years, and this is just how it is. And I'm taking care of him, but I also need a break. I only need help. And this is just too much. It's a lot of work. So that's when the Southern Caregiver services come in place, by having a caregiver from the agencies that they contract with to give a break to that wife that's taking care of the husband. Am I correct, Martha? Yeah.
Yes. So
or a child or a neighbor or somebody.
Yes. So what we have seen is that our caregivers usually utilize this service kind of as a temporary need, right? Because it's not something that can be sustained since we only have limited funds to do that. But what happens is that sometimes these families end up realizing that they need these services long term. And so then they themselves contract with those companies and either, do a multiple hour, or maybe they continue giving them the break because that's how they got connected by us referring them to those services. Many of these caregivers realize that they need help. But what we try to do at SCRC is we try to have them establish a long-term plan for caregiving. So utilizing their networks, their support system, our services, the other organizations throughout San Diego County, so that they create this network of support. And it's not an emergency situation, but people that they can rely on.
Then we had another question. What can I do to prepare my family for my death? How do they dispose of my body without money? Any answers other than that UCSD accepts body donations? Okay.
I think that's as far as what we do, aging independent services, we're just a fraction of the Health and Human Services, and we do not deal with that. We don't have, I don't think we have any programs unless you're under public guardian or public administrator where you die without a will, or so then maybe there is some kind of, they would know what in that kind of situation, but we don't have any programs that would take care of that situation.
Okay.
And I don't know if APS knows of anything, but I don't, in their experience in the past, was there some organizations you refer people to?
Not that I know of, because we only work with people while they're still alive. We don't generally tend to deal with that sort of thing. So no, this isn't
Yeah.
something that we run across very often.
And if something that you guys wish us to look into it and try to find any information, we can also do that and follow up and send an email later to Christine. But yeah, most of our services is to maintain and let you have a quality of life for the time being.
Anne Braun has said she's fallen 5 times this past year outside. Any advice? I know. Anne, I hope you're okay.
And do you use any kind of assistive devices to ambulate? Do you have any caregivers? I mean, are these falls related to any kind of bone disease or something? I mean, what do you need somebody to come to your home to kind of assess for? I mean, you said it was outside, so I'm not sure how those things happen. I mean, we have our fall prevention task, and we can maybe make some referral to come and assess maybe your home, but not the outside area. I don't know how that would work. We have a physical therapist on the staff that would also come and assess at home if that's something that you're interested.
We have another
Dan
question,
answering. Okay.
completely different topic. We're in an elder care crisis with the horrifying rent prices. Elders are becoming homeless. The Section 8 wait list is 15 years long. What other resources for housing are available for disabled seniors being evicted through no fault of their own?
For the eviction, I would say elder law and advocacy can probably provide free consultation. And that's one of our contracts, and Matt might have a phone number handy that he can put in. Yes, there's crisis for housing everywhere in Southern California, particularly in San Diego. We are creating more additional senior sustainable housing. There was one that was just open in Claremont. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that area there. I think it's going to be housing 200 seniors. There is more getting built, but not as much as there is a need for it.
There's been a couple questions because this is the Hemlock Society of San Diego. And I know you guys focus on people while they're living. Do you get into California's End of Life Option Act at all if people are so inclined to ask you questions? I went through your booklet, Managing End of Life Decisions, and although you did that with Compassion and Choices, there is nothing mentioned about the End of Life Option Act or medical aid in dying at all. And I'm probably putting you all on the spot, and I'm sorry.
This
As a
is
matter of
not
fact,
something that we generally get involved in. If it does happen to come up with adult protective services, we would probably just refer them back to their primary care physician, to their medical teams, since this is not necessarily something that we dive into very much. I had one other comment regarding the previous question. There is an organization called Elder Help, and they do have some options as far as assistance with housing. So I know that they have a program that pairs um, seniors who are living in their own homes with potential renters. So if that is something that might help with the housing situation, I know that they do provide that service. And they have specialists who kind of talk to you about what your individual situation is and see what other options are available. So I just wanted to provide that information.
Yeah, and I wanted just to add that there is definitely Elder Help has that option. However, they have a wait list now for people who actually want to share their homes. And I'm not sure how long is that wait list, but there is a new tool on housing and development site, which I'm gonna now try to research and put that link into the chat box, where you can go and type your information and area, and then it looks for affordable housing for older adults in San Diego. It's a new tool that just came out like maybe a month or 2 months ago. So maybe that can be helpful in your search for where is the available housing, what's the pricing, and how much, what's the wait list. So I'm gonna look for that right now and put in a chat.
Here's one. I feel that a neighbor needs a wellness check. What's the first number or agency I should call?
I can answer that question. There is a program that I did mention called Project Care. It's a very small program that basically does weekly check-in calls to older adults that live by themselves or don't have a lot of support. So we contract with 2 local organizations that can do ongoing check-in calls, just basically saying, are you doing okay? Great, we'll call you next week. Or if people don't answer the phone, they'll try to call that person multiple times. And if they still don't answer, that will kind of flag to alert an emergency contact that's listed to say, this person we're usually calling every Wednesday is not answering. You may want to go check on that person. Or if there's no emergency contact available at that time, they'll actually reach out to the retired senior volunteers that are in partnership with the local sheriff department and actually do a physical wellness check on someone. They've
And I would
oftentimes
also
found
add to
people
that,
understand.
Matt, that if this is a situation where you fear that that neighbor maybe has fallen and you have no way of accessing, that would be more of a 911 call and ask for a welfare check.
Awesome. I think we're good. I can't, you guys have really told us a lot about your company and what you guys do, and, sort of makes me proud to be in San Diego.
Thank you.
Do you have any?
I had a question. I have this big catalog from Aging Well Services from the city, which has a lot of services and recreational things and park and recreation department and everything. How do you overlap with the city services?
That's a great question, Faye. They also do. I'm aware that Age Well Services does wellness checks and phone calls. So people can actually receive phone calls from us and from that city service. We're obviously completely separate entities. So all of our programs are either federally funded, state, local, and the city programs provide obviously funded through the city services, but they have their own set of unique programs that are offered through the city of San Diego locally.
They do. They have fitness and they have recreation and dances and transportation and cooking and arts and crafts and all kinds of things. They will have to have a separate meeting to hear what they have to offer because, and also, are you in any danger of having your funds cut by all the fund cutting that's going on?
I'll venture to say we hope for the best and we prepare for the worst. So we are just, we're very committed to helping older adults remain safely in their homes and live the best life and trying to support them. So this is our mission. And so we hope to be able to support that mission and find the ways to persevere.
I notice you have referred often to other nonprofits like Jewish Family Services, Catholic Family Services, even Southern Caregivers, I thought was an independent nonprofit. Is that how you work? You incorporate all these other organizations under your wing, or yes?
Yeah, so there's the processes we go through, but there's contracts we get with these services. So we collaborate. We collaborate with different county departments, but also with nonprofits and different agencies. And we try to really go wide and big and help. And I also wanted to add, we also have exercise classes, feeling fit. I don't remember if Matt talked about, because we kind of try to condense this presentation as much as possible, but we also try to do so much for our older adults who are also active and want to stay healthy and want to exercise, and definitely try to cover all the bases.
It's amazing what's available in this city and county. I'm just very impressed.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
Faye, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
So we're obviously a nonprofit organization. We're an independent organization, but one of our contracts is with the county of San Diego, actually two of our contracts. And so we definitely collaborate with the county of San Diego, but also with other nonprofits, so that if our clients need other services that we don't necessarily provide and the county doesn't necessarily provide, we can refer them to those. So for example, we don't do meal delivery, but there is an organization that does that. So we can refer them to that organization. And so we do try to collaborate as much as possible with other businesses, nonprofits, the county. We also have contracts with the state of California. And so like Dalia said, we're hoping that we don't get the cuts, but we need to also be here for our clients. We provide a service that is needed. We serve the underserved. We are here to be that fill that void in healthcare and mental health care. And so we want to make sure that we're here to connect with as many people who might need our services as possible.
And I also want to add 211. Are you guys familiar with 211? It's a great, it's 211. It's either a phone number, or you can go to 211, what is it, Matt? 211.com or 211.org, where you can go, and there is a slew of information to everything. There is a whole sections on on aging services, but also on any other thing that you might need or think about. They are like a one-stop shop as well, and we collaborate with them as well.
So
Yeah,
suppose I'm interested in ending my life, and I talk to a neighbor about it. A neighbor calls Adult Protective Services, and they say, this woman next door to me wants to end her life. Would you step in, please, and protect her? And I say, but I don't want to be protected. I want to end my life. What happens then?
So again, because Adult Protective Services is a voluntary program, if I go out and I speak to you and you tell me, I am perfectly fine, I am taking care of this, I do not need any services, we are not allowed to intervene. We're not allowed to provide any services to you. Our basic, the way that we work is we want to support you in being as healthy as possible, but also to make your own choices. So if you, Faye, don't want any services from us, then there really isn't anything that we can do. A lot of people equate adult protective services to child protective services, but we are very, very different in that we have no power to do anything. Because child protective services works with minors, they don't have the same rights that adults do. So they are able to step in some situations. Again, because we're working with adults who have a lot more rights, you have the right to live the way that you want to. And that's, again, If you don't want any services, we don't force anything on you.
And
What about-
Faye, I wanted to add something first. You look like you have another, I don't know, many years on. So hopefully you're not deciding now to end your life.
I'm
But
thinking,
I want to tell you this, and I know Penny can fill in for that. Let's say you have advanced stage of dementia and you have a daughter that's taking care of you, and the daughter decides that this is the route you should take. Then there will be a little bit of a different investigation, because you're not able to tell us what you want, what your wishes are. And if there is nowhere in writing that said that if I am in this stage and I come to this point and I can't, this is how I want to, this is what I want to happen to my life, then that would be more of an issue. Am I correct, Penny? Yeah.
Yes. And
That's-
I can't really give you a specific answer as far as what would happen. There are a lot of different factors that we look at into everyone's specific situation, but that's really what we're looking for. What would this person have wanted while they still had the ability to make their own decisions? We would be talking to doctors. We would be looking at if you have any kind of advanced healthcare directive, anything like that. So it does get a little bit tricky once that person is no longer able to communicate what their preferences are. But other than that, we always go with whatever that individual prefers and what they want to do.
I wonder if you have the resources. There are two of us Right to Die organizations on this call, End of Life California, which has its phone number here somewhere, and the Hemlock Society. And there are other, maybe one or two other organizations that can refer people for an assessment and services if they are eligible for ending their lives under the law or otherwise. And that would be very helpful if you had a list of such places to give people who are, serious about thinking this is it. We think that's a perfectly legitimate request. And as long as the person is mentally competent to make a decision, they should know what the resources are, I think.
That's a great idea. We will take that in consideration.
Okay, we're happy to give you a list.
Thank
You
you.
want to give us a list?
I'll email you later.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's not to get on my soapbox again, but I think it's wonderful that aging people have all these services. But at some point, you're going to die. I mean, this is not news exactly, but I don't want to break it to you if anybody didn't know that.
On Sunday, Faye, on Sunday, that's
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
it's a beautiful day on Sunday, and you have to
Wednesday.
tell us that news.
It's not news. It's an old adage.
Tale. Okay.
Well,
should-
I would like to thank our presenters for giving up their Sunday, because they all work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And yet they were gracious enough to come on a beautiful Sunday afternoon, the first sunny one in a long time, and give up their time to talk to all of us. And, my hat's off to you. Thank you. Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to do to close the meeting, Faye?
Well, we have meetings every month. So we do encourage you to look at our website, hemlocksocietysandiego.org. We have a meeting coming up April 13th. Is that right, Christy? Where we show every other month, we show a film, a Right to Die film. And we're showing, what's it called?
Still Alice at the La Jolla Library.
Alice, yeah.
That's a great movie.
Stay tuned,
So,
because every month we have something that maybe overlap with something you do. It sounds like what happens at your organization is amazing. The scope of what you cover is just amazing. I'm very impressed with that, especially the caregiver situation, which is so difficult for so many people. And of course, we are a nonprofit. We accept donations. They're tax deductible. We have some books that we give for good donations, and we encourage you to help all these nonprofits that help people out. We all do a very good job, I think, in San Diego. So thank you again. I repeat Christy's appreciation for your coming out on this beautiful Sunday day.
And thank you so much. This was a great opportunity for all of us to talk to you and get to know you a little bit more. And so we really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Enjoy the day.
Bye.